It's time for On Point with Julian Phillips.
I was thinking back to January 6th, that insurrection, those rioters storming the Capitol, and looking at them, thousands of rioters, mostly white. I would say probably 96, 97% white. You had a number of people, carrying Trump flags, but also that other flag that a lot of Trumpeteers, as I say, have carried, the flag, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag with the snake. You heard people, crying 1776. There was one guy that was dressed like a Revolutionary War hero or a revolutionary soldier. And you hear this a lot going back to 1776 and that kind of thing, independence, so on and so forth. At the same token, we have witnessed and also heard a number of police officers who were black saying that, there were a number of these people that were shouting racial epithets and slurs. Uh, so, that is also in the mix. And so I thought, what does it mean going back to 1776? That's history. This month we are celebrating Black history. In February of 1926, the famous and noted Black historian Carter G. Woodson put together what was called Negro History Week, and that was a precursor to what we now know as Black History Month. And what he wanted to do was to show the world the contributions of Blacks, Black Americans, Blacks as a whole in the world, to the contributions of mankind. And we needed this, and of course we need this today because Black history is still largely excluded from the history books. I remember a friend, his husband, happened to be white, was saying, "Oh, you can put Black history just in 5 minutes." Really? So here's the deal. So over the years, we've had Black History Month, a good thing. But here's my problem with it. Largely, and I say largely, what we have witnessed and seen for Black History Month are things that are acceptable to white folk. What do I mean by that? Well, you have a lot of athletes, Muhammad Ali and Jesse Owens and stuff like that. You have, singers and entertainers, tap dancers. And of course, you have the civil rights movement, that struggle. Martin Luther King, you have a little bit of Malcolm X here and there. These are all good things, don't get me wrong. But these are the things that, by and large, are acceptable and palatable to white folks. But to the white supremacist and the bigot, I want you to hear me now with this. These things bear no witness to them as to what Blacks have contributed overall to mankind. Now, I'm not saying that arts and that kind of stuff is not something that's noteworthy, but the civil rights movement, to the bigot, they have no interest in the civil rights movement. They don't care about it. That's just for Black folk. Right? And, running 100 yards to glory and that kind of stuff, okay, they can accept that. But what they can't seem to accept or don't know about, or that is not given to them, are other contributions, very significant ones, that have a great, great impact on society and mankind as a whole. Let me talk about some of those things. First, let's go back to the Revolutionary War. What most folk don't know is that almost 20,000 slaves fled and fought for the British because they were guaranteed their freedom. But what a lot of other people don't know is that as many as 8,000 Blacks fought for the Patriots in the Revolutionary War. Now, a lot of people heard about Crispus Attucks, supposedly the first who shed blood for this country. Wasn't white. But they don't know about Samuel Poor, who was a noted soldier in the Revolutionary War. They don't know about Colonel Ty, who was credited as being the fiercest guerrilla fighter, a Black man, for the Revolutionary War, fighting for the Patriots, for the colonies. They don't know about those people. They don't know about these 8,000, they say 5,000 to 8,000 black men who were fighting, hopefully, hoping to get their freedom. There was nothing promised there, but they were hoping for that. So the white bigot and the white nationalists and supremacists doesn't realize that there were black people fighting for our freedom. It wasn't just them, okay? Let's kind of move on in history. And I'm kind of, there's so much stuff. Blacks have been involved and African Americans involved in so much in this country. Let's just talk about science. The white supremacists might be surprised to know that thousands upon thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives were saved by the development of large blood banks. Well, that development was by Dr. Charles Drew, a black physician. Interesting, isn't it? The white supremacists might not know that the first open heart surgery was performed, the world's first open heart surgery was performed by Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, a black doctor. Some people thought, oh, no, it was William DeBakey. No. It was Daniel Hale Williams. My goodness, blacks did something more than just sing and tap dance their way into history. Isn't that amazing? Now, these are not things that I'm making up. The white bigot might not realize when it comes to invention that the traffic light was invented by a black inventor, Garrett T. Morgan. Or the very plans for the nation's capital that, of course, the Capitol tried to storm was mapped out by Benjamin T. Banneker, a black man. The white supremacists might not realize that a lot of foods that we get now on these trucks, refrigerated trucks, that part of that invention was the brainchild of a black inventor, long haul refrigeration. Then there's Alexander Miles, who got the patent for the automatic opening and closing of elevator doors. We can go down the list. We can talk about The Hidden Figures, that movie where the computers for NASA were black women. And of course, the mapping out of the flights of the space shuttle and then, of course, to the moon by a black woman. John Glenn, we know that now from the movie, did not want to fly until he knew that this one particular black woman was responsible for mapping out the flight plans. In military history, even during the segregated soldiers, forces in World War II, and we can go all the way back, but we talked about the Revolutionary War, World War II, of course, we've heard about the Tuskegee Airmen. Now, of course, the feats that they did in aviation against all odds and even trying to get the opportunity to fly, some of the greatest aviation feats in military history. But, the white supremacist and bigot may not know about the Red Ball Express that kept, the troops moving for Patton's army, going all through Europe, all the way into Nazi Germany. Of course, the soldiers that freed, some of the Holocaust victims. They may not know about the 92nd Combat Buffalo Infantry Division, the all-black division my father and my uncle were a part of in World War II, who had some great exploits in the European theater during World War II, when they were finally allowed to fight. I remember my father talking about this division, and he was saying how the commanding officer, General Armin, wanted the 92nd. He was trying to get them to march down Fifth Avenue at the end of the war, and they were denied. And I asked why, and he took me to Fifth Avenue. He says, Julian, he says, do you know how big a combat infantry division is? He said it would probably take a few hours for that whole division to pass before your eyes. He said, I'm convinced that they meaning politicians, whatever, did not want America to know how much blacks had contributed to the war effort. And not just in the European theater, but in, of course, the Pacific theater as well. What I'm saying, friends, is that blacks have been involved in science and technology. And there are more things that I could talk about that people say, oh, I remember when I was community relations manager for WNBC several years ago, and I did for Black History Month, instead of, Muhammad Ali and Martin Luther King and all that, I did Blacks in Science and Technology. You might not be amazed at how many letters and emails came into the station saying, oh, well, this possibly can't be true. Can you imagine if the accomplishments of Black people were taught along with regular history, supposedly, how that might have changed the minds of not just Blacks, not just whites, but Blacks as well. I would go around to schools during Black History Month and talk about these things. You just see how the kids, oh, I didn't know that. And even the teachers and how the kids walked out of their young kids with their chest puffed up saying, oh man, we've done something here. Can you imagine? These are the kinds of things I'm talking about. And this is the problem I have with Black History Month now. Black History Month is still marginalized. We're only allowed, and I say allowed because I don't know what else to think of it, about only certain things, but not things that, white folks especially think, oh, well, yeah, they tap danced and shot a basketball and dunked and, sung a few tunes and stuff like that. But, they couldn't do anything else. They couldn't read or write or whatever. And all of these great things, the ironing board, there are all sorts of things, even little minor things that folks might take for granted that were developed and invented by Black inventors and scientists. Now, can you imagine if this stuff was taught? Where might we be now in this country? Will we have perhaps more of an equal footing? Who knows? I would tend to think so. I want to read you something in closing that was written by John Donne, who was a writer some time ago, and he says this, and you might be familiar with this. In part, it says, "No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. No man is an island." White folks don't have any monopoly on science and technology and advancements in this world. There are a lot of people who have been involved with this. A lot of people of color, Black, Asian, Indian, you name it. But if you look at history, for the most part, you wouldn't see this. Can you imagine if Black history really told the true story? Black history is not just Black history. It is world history. It is the history of mankind. Imagine what the white bigot would think, or how he might think differently, if he knew that the world was just not made for him or developed by him. Wouldn't that be something? No man is an island entire up to himself. The problem with Black history as we see it, how it's presented, it's not comprehensive. It doesn't really tell the full story. That's what I would like to see. That's what we need to continue to strive for. Black history, and also looking towards our present, but also our future. Think about it. And I'll see you next week.